When I vied for the position of governor of Nairobi, I knew what I was going for. When I made the decision to vie for senator of Nairobi, I was with you in Belfast or Londonderry, one of the two places in Northern Ireland. And I remember I was chairing a meeting, but I chose not to chair that particular session, and I was scribbling on a long notepad. That time we were in the same committee. You're a senator, I was a member of the National Assembly, but chair of the Cohesion Committee and Equal Opportunities. I understand my city of Nairobi. For many years, our city has been on a free fall, especially following 1992 elections, when the ruling party then lost grip of the capital. And so there's been a lot of systemic decline in our city over those years, whether it is in matters of land, in matters of fiduciary, issues. And so when I took this task, I knew what I was going to face and what is ahead of me. As you've seen, from 2013 to 2018, Nairobi has been getting disclaimer opinions. It's been a mess. From 2018 to 2022 has been also equally a problem. But when you're faced with such a task, what do? You summon the best that you can put together. Of course, you believe in God, but you must have a plan on how to sort out this city. This city will be sorted out by ourselves. And that's what I keep telling my team. It is true, most of the staff in the county, apart from the chief officers and not all chief officers, some chief officers had even been there, and I promoted them. But apart from chief officers, CECs and advisors, most of the staff have been there. Just this weekend, there was a celebration of Team 89, inspectorate officers who joined in 1989. And many are there, some have retired, 35 years ago. To bring change, there is no instant thing you can do. It is an ideal situation, but there is no magic wand that is waved to change a city like Nairobi. But I'm happy that I can be able to track progress that we've made, significant in many, many areas, whether it is in healthcare. Chair, in healthcare, we have things that have never been seen before. Nairobi had no ICU. Kenyatta is what used to be seen as ICU. We have now more than one intensive care unit. The lifts at Pumwani last worked when I was born, Chair. Now they are back working. Our ladies can go to theater. We've introduced the position of CEOs in our hospitals. And there's been transformation because we just had boards and medical superintendents. Medical superintendents are doctors. And so sometimes they may not look at the holistic nature of running a hospital, from the gate to the customer service, to supply chain, to the issues of human resource, to technology. Those changes are taking time, but they're being felt. In 10 years, from 2013 to the time I became governor, scholarships and bursaries in Nairobi were given worth 3 billion. But in less than 10 months, I was able to more than half that. We've given scholarships and bursaries 1.88 billion. People around this city who had never felt the county, they had never felt devolution, now are wondering, also, actually, my child can get a bursary thrice a year. It used to be given once in 3 years. Now it's given 3 times a year. Every term, 2.5 million first term, 2.5 million second term, 2 million third term. 1 out of 4 children in Nairobi were not going to school because of hunger, Chair. Most interventions to deal with hunger had been focused in the arid areas. That's why even the department in the ministry is called nomadic education something, We said it when we were in the Senate that we need to do a feeding program. In fact, I'm very pleased that if you look at the Hansard when Senator Wambua had brought the Mang Beans bill, I spoke about how Nairobi will be buying ndengu from Kitui, which we are doing. Chair, in less than a year, we're able to build 10 kitchens. We're able now to feed 184,000 children every single day at 5 shillings. We've been able to get significant support towards that program. School enrollment has gone up from 250,000 to 310,000 just in the second phase of the school feeding program. In the third phase of that program, Chair, we're going to make sure, because we've now broken ground to another 7 kitchens, we're going to make sure that all children in public schools are fed and then the public schools become satellites to the informal schools, upbeat schools. When I say Nairobi was on a free fall, there's no explanation why Nairobi has 210 public primary schools, yet we have 17 constituencies, 85 wards. If you look at maybe some of your constituencies in your counties, one constituency might have 100. But how do we sort out that challenge? Do we say, let us not feed these ones because we can't feed everyone? Today we've increased that enrollment. We're now building 5,000 classrooms. The national government committed, and they put 1 billion for classrooms. We have put 500 million, and every year 1,500 classrooms. Meaning by the end of this first term, we'll possibly have left more classrooms than I found when I became governor of Nairobi. So, Chair, the challenges are numerous. This is a city whose last master plan was done in 1976. The last physical master plan of the city, following the 1948 master plan. We have now gotten resources to do the next master plan of the city through the Millennium Challenge Corporation. And that's why in 2 weeks we're going to be accompanying the national government to the US. NMS made an attempt to do those master plans. New plan is a foundation for planning. But that was not done. We have $60 million now just to do that proper master planning for our city in 12 months. And after that, we secured $700 to $800 million to implement it. A city that had not been planned looking forward, of course, would have the challenges that we see today, that there's no water. People are wondering, Chairman, why is it that the dams are full of water, but the water rationing is going on? And when you try to explain that, very few then understand that, first of all the water that we receive in Nairobi must be treated through a treatment plant. In fact, because of the rain in Gatere Forest and the debris in the Chania River, our production capacity at Ngevu has moved down from 18,700 cubic meters per hour to 17,400. And that's why we're able to get NOS to go and clear, help us clear that. Because of that lack of planning, Chair, as I go to conclude, I know I've taken time, Nairobi had only 4 sources of this water that we talk about. 3 of them done by the colonialists. Kikuyu Springs done in 1904 to 1910, 6,000 cubic meters to the city. Ruiru Dam done in 1928. Sasumwa done in 1958, 60 million liters per day. Those 3 were done before we got independence. When we got independence, the only project that had been done was was Ndakaine, done between 1994 and 1997, producing 84% of our water. But it was done with a view of a population of the year 2002, which was 2 million Nairobians. So every day we get 525.6 million liters against a demand now that has gone to 900 million liters a day. What have we been able to do within this 1 year and how many months? Almost 1.5 or just slightly above. Maybe 20 months to be exact. We've unlocked the first project that was being done after that period of Northern Collector 1 to add 140 million liters to bridge that gap of water. We have secured, and that process is now ongoing, support to do Northern Collector 2 and Maragua 4, which adds 220 million liters of water. But the next 1 million liters of water also must be looked at. Our engineers, for instance, at Nairobi Water have designed one of the programs at Ngevu, where we lose 30 million liters of water every day because of the filtration system. Just at 2 billion is now going to bring back that 30 million liters, half of Senator Medhu's Sasumwa in his county, just at 2 billion shillings back into the grid. The future will not plan itself, Chair. The challenges are there for the city, but the opportunities are there for us. We hope that, Chair, even to engage the Senate, my senator, our members of parliament, resident associations, there are so many stakeholders, that this year, with our vision 2050, we can then now look at Nairobi. By the year 2050, with a population of 10.5 million people, what needs to be done today, moving that way? So Nairobi is a peculiar city. As you said, I saw a report saying that our revenue is that of 30 counties combined. The GDP of Nairobi is $28 billion. Rwanda as a country is $11 billion. Burundi as a country is $2 billion. We're engaging financiers out there saying, look, you can support Nairobi directly. We want to come to you, and I gave a presentation to the Devolution Committee. We want to come to you on how you can enable us as a county move beyond the limitations of municipal financing that this city needs. Unless we get significant financing, it has been raining, people are talking about drainage. To expand the drainage to the extent that we want is billions of shillings. So unless we can be able to discount our future income, we know for sure we'll never get less than 20 billion a year, whether or not we collect on-source revenue. And after all, it is going up. Unless we can be able to do that, we've gotten transactional advisors. We'll need the Senate to support us in that process. So, Chair, there are many things that I can talk about, but let me not talk about it. But just to underscore, I've been a senator longer than I've been a governor. I've been a legislator. Leadership needs bold decisions to be made. You find a situation, you look at it, you address it. While addressing it also, you must make sure you create political stability, for you to be able to implement it. Unlike NMS, whatever was there, one, we are not military, we have to work with the people. Then, whatever entity was there was not a threat politically to anyone. No one was trying to pull it down. But now that where we are, and I'm very happy that despite a lot of misinformation that has been out there, the Senate, and particularly your committee, has been objective enough to look at the issues. I want to conclude by saying that I'm very happy that this notion or idea that the county government of Nairobi or the governor of Nairobi does not want to be held accountable. I hope that that is debunked. Chair, I've come to the Senate more than any other governor. This is today is possibly my 13th appearance in this financial year, to different and various committees. Out of 15 invites, in fact, for you, you said one invite, that was missed, or two. We are ready for accountability, being accountable. And I keep telling you, audit is a tool to help the county. But I want my officers to know that no one will protect you again. Everybody must answer for themselves. Everybody must must be able to answer for the actions they take, no matter who is your boss. And that is why everybody signs a performance agreement. I have performance contracts with my CECs. They have in turn signed performance contract with the chief officers up until director level. So I want to thank you for your cooperation. The Senate really can support Nairobi County in many counties. If governors understand what the true essence of Senate is, I think we can actually make our counties work, and we can make Nairobi work. So thank you for your patience. We've taken a whole day, but just to let you know that I'm available to come. And in fact, I was telling the Committee of Devolution, I will also proactively invite the committees and even this committee to look at specific issues in order to help us be better at serving Mwananchi. Our citizens sometimes are not very patient in terms of what they want everything now. But we must also, as political leaders, carry them along and let them know this is what we're doing, this is the progress we're making. We're not there. And sometimes we may falter, but we've moved from point A to point B and we're moving to point C. That is the essence of leadership, Chair. So I want to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Sifuna. Thank you, Chair. Because my colleagues were generous enough to donate their time. Governor, sometimes you read the room. These guys have been here from morning. And it is not always necessary to put out your view of your achievements at every point. I can assure you, when Nairobi works, it will not come from you. You will be hearing it from the people of Nairobi that in Embakasi South
that this is not working, this is how we want it to work better. That is a continuous process that even the Senate is engaged in it. So,
yes, and please be very precise. What's the name of the officer?
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Bramwell Simiu. I'm the County Chief Officer in charge of Disaster Management and Coordination. And just to answer you on how you're dealing with this our current structure, we have the Disaster Risk Reduction Directorate, which focuses on mitigation and prevention of disasters. So this is a directorate that engages with the public on matters awareness, matters setting early warning systems, building community resilience through setting up some of the community volunteer response teams. Then we have the Directorate of Fire and Rescue, which really is a rescue agency, which focuses on responding to emergencies when called upon. The DRR unit also deals with matters of recovery, such as post-disaster support. Now, part of the reason we have challenges, Chairman and members, to implement this current law is that it's tailored around fire and rescue services. It does not give us the latitude to deal with matters mitigation or prevention or recovery adequately. And just to mention that this law was passed in 2015, but the disaster management sector was actually set up in 2018. Now, between 2018 and 2022, you will be aware, Chair, that we had a bit of political challenges, And for a large portion of that era, we didn't have a DG sort of looked at within that law. So we were not able to operationalize it during that time. So when His Excellency took over, of course, one of the intentions was to, excuse me, then to operationalize this act. But having the opportunity as a subject matter experts and together with my colleagues in the sector, we were able then to look at three critical things. One was the leadership of disaster management, whether this particular act provided for that adequately, and it was found that it was there are major gaps in that. Secondly, we looked at the issue of command and control, as you correctly observed, and such as in the current situation that we find ourselves in. When you look at the issue of command and control, the law does not give us a proper framework that allows us to be able to deal with incidents. That act also does not capture the full scope of hazards that we face, so that you look at it as more of a response to fire act, as opposed to becoming a modern dynamic.
Bramwell, you're taking us back to where I wanted us to exit. I no longer want the argument on the advantages or disadvantages of that law.
Okay.
I just want to understand, how are you currently responding to disasters and emergencies?
Yes.
Particularly the flooding disaster that we have right now.
Yes.
You have explained the directorate.
Yes.
So you have explained that the tactical or operational bit of it.
Yes, Chair.
At the strategic level,
yes.
What do we have?
So as His Excellency mentioned, despite not operationalizing the law, we actually have this multi-sectoral committee that consists of all the line essential services sectors. So we have public health, we have works, we have mobility, we have environment. I chair that committee. It also ropes in the sub-county administration team and the Ngao team as part of that team. So this is a team that...
When is the last time you met?
We met, I think, 2 weeks ago. We've been meeting, we met 2 weeks ago.
That's
a week ago.
That's
sorry, a week ago.
That's at operational level. I'm looking for strategic direction.
Yes.
Because ultimately,
yes.
I want to see how the governor fits into that structure.
So that committee is actually convened by His Excellency the Governor and the Regional Commissioner, Mr. Committte. But then the delegated sort of day-to-day management of the council, I chair that as the chair of the...
So that's more or less the council. It's only that it's a governor who chairs it.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
So it appears the problem is that it was designated to be chaired by the deputy governor, because if you're saying that exists with the regional commissioner, police commandant, and all those things, it's basically more or less what is in the law.
It's more or less the same.
It's more or less the same, but the only difference is the chair.
Yeah. No, I mean, the Act doesn't recognize the regional commander, for instance. It doesn't bring in the police commander. It starts at county level. So it's a similar thinking in terms of the kind of people you need around the table, but without those specific names. So when Kate sits there, the council, if you look at it clearly, has no regional commissioner. Nairobi is a bit different, where our regional commissioner, Nairobi is a region and a county at the same time, you know. So there are those differences, but operationally, even as recently as last week, I was chairing the same committee. But what we found, Chair, is that just as we're moving with the barrow system, it is more practical and impactful when we step down these teams to the sub-county. And so we have empowered the sub-county teams to have the machinery, the resources, the cash in terms of interest. The sub-county admins, they sit with the DCCs, they sit with the disaster management officer at the sub-county, together with the different agencies, so Red Cross, the police, all entities there, say, okay, there's this problem in Runda, for instance, or in Madare. We need to respond to it, and they're able to do it without having to come to City Hall. So what we have at City Hall is just the strategic leadership. It receives the reports from these places. Anything that needs to be escalated is then escalated to us. I can give an example. What we're dealing with, for instance, in Dagoretti South, in Udiruru yesterday, were landslides. You know, the response to the landslides there in Udiruru ward and what needs to be done is very different from what we're dealing with in Mabatini, in Madare. But the Mabatini team in Madare has the capacity, the resources, and the ability to solve the problem without these add-on interfering. So, Chair, with the current disaster,
because that is how we are currently structured. With the current disaster, for instance, I've been to all parts of the city, as you're saying rightfully, even today. I think this is the second time I've worn a suit. It was just today in the Labor Day, because I had to go. And even after that, I went straight to the ground, Kware and Viwandani. I've been to Mukuru, Kwarube, I've been to all these places, listening to the people, taking food supplies, giving them, mattresses and blankets, and addressing certain challenges. In Enterprise Road, for instance, where it has been flooding, and that's why we've included in that council, in quotes, Kura and Kenha. They're not provided for there. But all the challenges you see, like Thika Road being cut off today, UN Avenue being closed this morning, is not a Nairobi County road. It's a Kura road or a Kenha road, and you need them all to be able to engage with you on a day-to-day. We have made the strategic decision, for instance, to reduce the number of these camps, because what you find, and I'll give you an example of Madare Vocational Center. During the day, you have 1,500 people who are at that camp, but at night they're only 60. But during the day is when wishers are coming, when supplies are coming, when Fish and Account is offering lunch. And so when that is happening, people come. But at night, they find a way to go and sleep. So in this certain case, we don't want to create permanent, IDP camps. And what we've pushed now at the national level, when we've had the whole of nation approach, and what I've advised them, is because we have the lists of those who've been affected, that have been prepared jointly by the chiefs, the assistant county commissioners, my ward admins, the sub-county administrators, and the ward administrators. We know who are those affected from the 60,000 families. Even if you're sorted at that point, leave alone as it keeps adding up, all of those people need to get a cash transfer, which is what we have pushed as Nairobi County. If you give them a cash transfer and the resources and rent for a number of months, the resilience of our people is that they shall find a place. They will find a place to stay and to move. But the dependency that you want to keep them in one place so that you keep giving them relief food and government then they seem to be working is not proper. Remember, there's a social construct that these people have. You cannot remove people from Madare and take them to a camp in Roysambu and expect them now again to integrate from there. There had been a proposal to create transitional housing. This is a proposal from the national government, that part of the land, for instance, at Madare Hospital, or the land at NYS, has, that they provide this housing, construct temporary shelters, and have people come and stay there. And the county has been very opposed to that. Rather, we wanted to improve that argument and tell them, look,
you see, therein lies a problem.
Yeah.
That the national government is making proposals which do not sit well with the county,
yes,
and yet this council was supposed to be the point of convergence for the two levels of government. And that's why we're still pushing for implementation of the law.
Where the decisions are being made is above this council, So the kind of
Can I ask Governor?
Yeah. Just let
me ask a question. Yeah. I agree with some of the sentiments. I just want to understand, have you shared these things you're telling us with the national government? Because we have said, even from the other side of the coalition, that you cannot tell people from Madare to look for higher ground.
Yeah.
And we keep hearing the president pronouncing himself. So you are admitting to the cluelessness of the national government that the senator was alluding to. Have you advised the president that this cannot work in Nairobi? I just want to know if you have shared those sentiments.
Chair, in point of order, I think we all Kenyans to conduct proceedings that are decent, within our standing orders, and with respect. I don't think throwing words and trying to just...
so far, nothing has been said that is disrespectful. What we are establishing...
Kindly, can you hear me out so that you rule?
Senator Chargain, what we are establishing is a nexus between the national and county governments, and would have expected that this council, would be the meeting of minds, would be the point of convergence. I think we are prosecuting this not for our coalition,
no, Chair,
but for the people,
by your Secretary
but for the people of Nairobi.
Can you rise above partisan interests?
Senator Fatuma Dulo.
Please, can you rise above partisan interests?
Senator Fatuma Dulo.
Chair, sorry we are taking too long on this matter, which is also very important. But I think we have been explained what are the challenges the county is facing vis-a-vis the current legislation. We want to move forward so that we can be able to finish this in time. Can the county tell us when they are going to operationalize this particular legislation? Then we can be able to follow it up and make sure that Kenyans are safe in Nairobi. I think that should be the best way
So I think what's remaining, Governor, is what Senator Dulu has asked. But really, for now, for the comfort of the leadership of Nairobi and the people of Nairobi, that commitment. Because what is worrying me is that it appears, for example, the cash transfers, where would they originate from? From the county or from the national government or from the disaster fund? So if they're coming from the national government, there needs to be a point of conversation, a point of convergence, because I do not want the governor of Nairobi to be called to meetings in official residences to discuss his constitutional mandate. As a Senate, we must stand firm and say that the governor of Nairobi is bound by certain laws, is bound by certain responsibilities that are constitutional, and we must allow him to execute without being bent this way or that way.
Yeah.
But, if you do not stick to the law, you will be called for meetings over cups of tea, etc.
Yeah.
Things must be institutional, things must be consistent, and they must be predictable. So please just summarize your submission so that we go back to the accounting issues.
Chair, I can give you assurance and the people of Nairobi that this governor of Nairobi is not bent this way or that way. That one does not, is not the case with this governor of Nairobi. In fact, in many instances, we're the ones who are guiding some of these responses by even the national government. This council that you're saying, Chair, and I agree with you, it's good to institutionalize, and because in as much as we've been operating it, it shouldn't be ad hoc. There, I agree with you. But now the whole of nation approach sits actually above this council. That is chaired by the president and myself. I'm there, and we have the PSs and cabinet secretaries from national government and the CECs from Nairobi. And that is where we've sat, and it's at that forum where I've explained to them that the approach being proposed might work in the rural areas, but for the capital, for Nairobi, we need a different approach. Not just because of the resilience, but just the social structure of our people. I'm very grateful. The national government has actually been very cooperative in terms of this current disaster. We've been able to guide them on where they need to, do some infrastructural work. The DG of Kenya, has been coming to City Hall. The DG of Kura, they've actually surprised. The default. The default disposition of government normally is to have disdain to counties, and you know that. But on this particular instance, and I don't think it's because of my personal relationship with these people, they've actually deferred a lot to the county government. For instance, the engineers that we've sent joint teams between ourselves and Kura to assess quickly, interventions on some of these bridges, some that the county is doing, some that they're doing, has been exceptional. So, Chair, I agree with you as a legislator that the law needs to be implemented as it is. Those who passed it in 2015, never implemented it. In 2015, 16, 17, 2018 didn't implement it, 19, 20, 21, 22. Now when you come in 23, we know the kind of different entity we want to raise. If you look, I think we went on a visit, you must have been there when I was in the Senate, to Vancouver. I don't know if you're there. Yes, Senator Dulo and Senator Cherelgei. You remember the structure of disaster response in the city of, in the state, in British Columbia and the entire province. And that they have an entity, the same way we have Nairobi Water Company, that you have an entity that now looks at disaster throughout the year, looks at mitigation, has the dashboards, has the response. Our emergency operations center, for instance, that we have in Nairobi is then coordinated with GSM. We know where the ambulances are. For now, we are using a short code number 1508. For anyone who's in trouble, they're calling it. That is the direction we want to go to. So even as we operationalize this council, which we will do because it's the law that is there now, we are still developing the legislation to create this semi-autonomous entity that then focuses on mitigation and then response, Chair.
I think you have dealt with the issues, save for the funding. Part of the requirement was to establish a fund, a disaster and emergency fund, which I believe is separate from the emergency fund that is established by the PFM. Were you able to come up with regulations for this fund, or that has not been operationalized?
Not yet, not yet. That has not been operationalized.
But the emergency fund exists.
It's not a fund. It's actually a vote to the sector. So the sector has a budget.
No. There's an emergency fund that is the 2% of revenues that is required under the PFM.
Yes, that is there.
That has been established.
That has been established. It's not been resourced to that level, 2% of the revenue. Of course, because of obvious challenges. You know, you look at 2%, the exchequer releases the budget that you've set up, the things that need to be done. So it's not resourced to that extent, but the fund does exist. The interventions that you're saying, for instance, the 7 billion that national government is talking about, that should also include these cash transfers, that will come from that national kitty. That is what we pushed. That is the position we put, because they have a contingent fund of 7 billion. You know, and we told them last year during El Nino, for instance, and Nairobi didn't flood, was because of the investment we had put in to the Green Army and equipment, and Nairobi County didn't get a shilling during that response. Possibly we were victims of our success, because they said, look, Nairobi is working, and there's, I don't know where the money went to, but we didn't get resources that time. This time we're saying, first of all, before even giving us additional money, give us our exchequer release. You know, the last exchequer.